Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac, Jack, and Jim Big Football Show on the Mac and Jack Sports. As we start off your day on Northeast Streaming Sports, Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m., I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, the legendary Hall of Fame boxing writer himself, Jack Hirsch, bringing you your sports breakfast live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And on today's show, the Big Football Show, our guests are our co-host, Jim Jeffcoat, will be in when he gets done doing what he has to do every day. And we'll have on Keith Angle with your Patriots preview. We'll have Robert Butler on doing his commentary on sports, especially on the NFL. And we'll also have the Philly sports guy coming in from live in Detroit as he gives you the Eagles preview. And we'll be covering all the games for you, breaking them down, giving you updates, going over the games, and we'll have a lot of fun today, Jack, as we always do on the Big Football Show. Good morning, Keith. Glad you could make it.
And Mac, and also we wrap up the baseball season today. Today's going to be the last day of the baseball season as the Atlanta Braves are going to be crowned world champions in baseball. Just as I predicted from the beginning of the year all the way through, and I'm mentioning it to you, Mac, for the 24th time on the show.
24th time in 12 days, Jack. So you at least tell me two times a day, and we'll get that out of the way real quick. The Braves go up 3-1 with a 3-2 victory yesterday, making Jack's season prediction one game away. But it's not over yet, folks. It's not over yet. The Braves will be pitching a bullpen game today, and the Astros had their opportunities. They had people on the bases all day yesterday, but just couldn't push across the runs. And Atlanta came up with some great hitting in certain situations and a great play in the outfield and left field. It's robbing the Astros from an extra base hit. So pretty exciting over there. It's an exciting series. I don't care if you like the Braves or Astros or you don't. If you love baseball, it's been quite a series over there. Jack, let's get to the college football top 10. Georgia is still undefeated. They beat Florida 34-7. A couple big upsets that I want to get into. Michigan State, number 8, beats Michigan 37-33.
I saw that game, Mac. I watched that game.
Yes, and Jim Harbaugh, who went to Michigan to build a program, has kind of built a program. I mean, they have a winning record. But when it comes to their rivals and big games, Harbaugh just can't win them. Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, they all have a winning record against Michigan.
There's a term, Mac, and the term is being able to get over the top. Harbaugh has taken them so close, the same way as he basically did when he coached the San Francisco 49ers. He did get them to a Super Bowl. They couldn't quite beat the Ravens. Same in college football. He's gotten his Michigan team to a good level. They weren't beaten 7-0, but they hadn't really won the big game. Michigan State was an opportunity, a big opportunity, because it was a major rival, Michigan State. But you want to know something? I kind of feel for Michigan in that game, because that game was a question of who would be the last man standing. It was like someone had to win the game, and it was ultimately Michigan State. You got the feeling if the game was going to last a half hour more, Michigan would get the lead, and Michigan State would take the lead back and would go back and forth. And when the smoke cleared, Michigan committed a key turnover at the end to end the game. But they played tough to the end. When it looked like they were out of it, they had their 3 timeouts left. Their defense made a big stand to get the ball back. And you thought maybe destiny was on their side, but it was not to be, as they then turned the ball over, and it was all she wrote.
Well, Michigan jumped out big. I'm trying to remember the running back's name who ran for 6 touchdowns, 196 yards. Had a heck of a game. He was breaking them all over the place and set a record for touchdowns against Michigan of all time. Something Junior. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But what a game he had. And it was all running, Jack. It wasn't passing. This guy was breaking 40, 50, 60-yard touchdowns. So The Michigan defense kind of couldn't stop the run. Michigan State ran all over them. And again, Michigan falls short in a big game. Auburn beats number 10 Ole Miss. Another Ole Miss is top 10, another upset. I had a feeling that Auburn was going to give them a game. I didn't know if they were going to beat them. And if you look at some of the teams out there that I really don't think are top 10 teams, I think it's because of the schedule. There was another upset, another big upset. I'm looking down at the bottom of there where Wisconsin beat a top 10 team. I think it was Iowa, if I'm not mistaken. I'll roll across eventually, folks. But another big upset. So we'll see what happens. Georgia looks like they're for real, Jack. It will probably be Georgia and Alabama for the division title, and we'll see who wins that game. And that may decide whether or not Alabama gets in the top 4 this year. That'll be
the game everyone wants to see ultimately for the national championship would be Georgia and Alabama. Alabama's kind of looked like they lost a little bit of their shine, just a little bit. But they're still the defending national champions. They're still the big name ticket. But Georgia has played better in recent weeks, much better. And Georgia's got such a great defense, and Alabama traditionally has always been a high-powered offense. So it would be a very intriguing game. There are other teams in there, that we can't completely discount, but they've been less than dominant. Like an Ohio State team, they struggled a little bit with Penn State. They beat them 33-24. So, you never know what could happen. But, a college football playoff is a bit different from the NFL, where anyone you feel can beat anyone in the NFL in a given day. You don't quite get that same feeling in college.
Great point. And to let everybody know, I'm talking about predictions. I did predict Penn State would cover, which they did easily. Penn State is one of those teams that is good enough to stay with you all game, but something happens at the end of the game that always they run out of gas. And it's happened a few times to them this year. So Ohio State with a big win over Penn State. We'll see what happens. I don't think they've played Michigan or Michigan State yet, Jack.
No. But the one team that we should mention that we tend to ignore is the team that's really rated number 2 in the country right now, even though realistically we put Georgia and Alabama 1-2. But Cincinnati, they beat Tulane yesterday by 19 points, but it was a game for a while. 19 points is a little bit deceiving. It was a tougher game than that. And they struggled a bit with Navy the week before. But Cincinnati, going back to last year, they've had very much of a winning program. Yeah. And a team that's on an upswing. And, you can't discount them completely either. I thought they'd throw them a little love.
I won't. I don't think Cincinnati will be able to compete with Alabama or Georgia, to be honest with you. We'll see. You never know.
But they play Alabama last year, and they did compete with them, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I am. I recall Cincinnati playing a very tough game. If it wasn't Alabama, wow. Maybe it was Ohio State.
Could be.
Maybe Ohio State, that they hung in very, very tough, a high-scoring game. And they weren't out of it till the very end.
Very true. Keith Engel's backstage, but let's get to a couple NFL news. Of course, the trade deadline is November 2nd. This will lead into Keith a little bit. Rumors are Evan Ingram, New York Giants tight end, who has had a ton of potential, but is either hurt or drops passes. In key parts of the game, there's a lot of interest from the league's GMs about Evan Ingram. It'll be interesting to see whether the Giants are willing to trade him or not.
Let's see if they win tomorrow night. If they win tomorrow night and they think they can salvage the season, I doubt if they're going to trade Evan Ingram. But if they should lose to the Kansas City Chiefs tomorrow, I could see a deal. I could see them having the parameters of a deal in place. But like you said, Evan Ingram, he hasn't lost his potential. And he's improved as far as catching the ball, but he really hasn't been an impact player for the Giants. And the question is, what can they get in return for Evan Ingram? I think he's too valuable to trade for something like a number 4 draft choice. If they could get something like a second-round draft choice, it certainly would get the Giants' attention. But anything less than that, I'm not so sure.
Well, we'll see what happens. Let's bring in Keith Engel with the Patriots preview today. Patriots with a big game. A lot of teams at the crossroads. Let's bring up Keith. How you doing today, Keith?
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Not too bad, Keith. I mean, we were talking about the trade deadline. I want to get to you with that in a second. Big game, huge game for the Patriots, in my opinion. Last time they played the Chargers, they made Herbert look terrible. I mean, they were all over him. They had his worst game ever. Patriots just get done trouncing the Jets, 54-13 or 17. It doesn't really matter. It was way too much to too little. And now they go across the West Coast, across the United States to the West Coast, play the Chargers, a good team, very good team. Had a couple one bad game anyway against the Ravens. What do you expect today? Can the Patriots go to 500?
Well, it's important, I think, that they do. I said, a month ago that I would want them to be 4-4 at the end of this month, which meant they had to beat the Cowboys or the Chargers, in my mind, to be there. They played really well against some good football teams, but have not been able to get over the hump. And it's important that they do that. And today, I think, is a good spot to do it. The Chargers are a good team, certainly a different team than they beat by, 45-3, I think you said, if I remember right. It's a huge game for them. For me, this sets up the rest of the season for them to get to that. You win this game here, I can find 9 wins on the schedule. I can find even maybe 10. And it's going to take 9 or 10 to make the playoffs for the Patriots. So big game, huge game for them, I think.
I agree. So the trade deadline's coming, Keith, November 2nd. Do you see, whether they win or lose, that the Patriots make any kind of trade to improve somewhere, maybe their defensive backfield? Belichick is not built like that, really. He'll pick up a free agent if he thinks he's going over the hump and he needs that one key player. Normally, he doesn't make big moves.
He doesn't, and I don't expect to see it happen here. He'll continue to bring in guys. He brought in 2 veteran defensive backs this week. And I think that's what you're going to see all year. Is you're going to see a revolving door of guys coming in, and some of them have contributed to this team too that they've brought in during the course of the season. So I don't see anything huge happening, along the lines of what you're talking about with the Giants maybe trading Ingram or somebody.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a guy that is just such a waste of talent because he could be a really good tight end in this league. He could just hold it to the football field.
We talk about trade.
Jack, one quick second. Let me bring up our co-host, the great Jim Jeffcoat, and we'll continue on.
Sure.
Good morning, Jim. How you doing?
Hello, Jim.
We got Keith Engel with the Patriots preview. Jack's just ready to ask him a very intelligent digging question that Keith's going to have to answer.
I must be on the wrong.
These guys, these guys keep talking about trades, but there's a salary cap. It's very difficult to pull off viable trades. So basically, any trades are going to have to be for draft choices. So as we were talking about before, you take a guy like Evan Ingram with the Giants, still has a ton of potential. But I can't see the Giants just trading him for 4th, 5th round draft choice. And teams are going to be reluctant this far into the season to give a 2nd round draft choice. He's certainly not going to go for number 1 draft choice that we know. So sometimes it makes sense just to hold on to your own guy.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with the Patriots preview, but go ahead, Jim.
No, it does. With Evan Ingram, it's been reported with the Patriots. You mentioned him a while ago.
I haven't heard that, but go ahead. Has he? I didn't know that, Jack. Okay.
Well, that'd be a surprise. It does tie in with the Patriots a little bit because you talked about draft choices, and that's why Bill Belichick doesn't make these types of moves because he doesn't want to give up those draft choices. If he makes a move, he's going to move somebody and get more draft choices.
Let me tell you who you could get for nothing if you could fit him in under the cap, Deshaun Jackson. Okay, he's ready to move. The Rams are letting him work out his own deal. and he still has, a lot of the explosiveness left.
Yeah, but
He could be a real steal. He could be another, not quite on the level of Antonio Brown, but kind of resemblance in his game.
I think that's all you need to say. Go ahead, Chip.
No, I was going to say that he's 31 years old, and to put him in the same category as Antonio Brown is not right. I think he's got some talents, but I don't think he's going to make a difference on your team. And where's he going to go that he's going to upgrade a team to get them possibly to the playoffs or Super Bowl? Yeah. You have to ask that question too. Does Brady even know him? Whether you go to Tampa? No, I doubt it. Where does he fit in? Because he wants the ball more.
I was going to say, he thinks he's better than he is, right, Jim?
Exactly. The issues with Jarvis Landry, maybe Cleveland, but that is just a thought. But I don't know where he fits in at, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if not Cleveland, maybe Kansas City. But again, I mean, listen, he's got a big ego. He's hurt a lot. He's older. I mean, he's not what he was. I mean, he was a dynamic player for the
What about Indianapolis? He could reunite with Carson Wentz.
That's a possibility, I suppose.
That is a possibility. That's a good thought right there.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he played with Wentz. I think Wentz was hurt a lot when he was there. But anyway, Keith, thank you. I agree. Listen, this is a big time for a lot of NFL teams this week, whether their season progresses and gets better or they fall off. And, we'll be talking to the Philly guy about the Eagles. I mean, they got some big decisions to make if they lose to Detroit.
It's funny. I was going to say we're approaching the midway point, but we really don't have one. With 17 games, where's the midway point? I don't even know where it is.
Well, it's midweek after the 8th game, I guess. I don't know where that is. Yeah, right. So, Keith, thanks for coming in. Good luck to your Patriots today. Hope you guys do well. It'll be interesting to see if Belichick can have the same success against Hebert as he did last year. That should be.
I'm excited. We're going to get over the hump today. I'm excited.
Okay. Good luck to you. So there you go, folks. Keith Angle with the Patriots preview, and welcome Jim to the show. As Jim Jeffcoat, you all know, 2-time Super Bowl champion of Dallas Cowboys, and probably, I could say, with some truth to it, probably the best defensive end for the Dallas Cowboys. I know that may make a couple people a little upset. Wait a minute, Jim.
You had
Charles
Jones.
Too Tall Jones. Yes, you had, and you had Charles Haley, who was more, he was more of a travelman than you. Yeah, you stayed with the Cowboys a long time, so that's why I give you the credit there.
Listen, I know Jim went on the bottom of the pile. He just went for the ball. Charles Haley probably caused some real damage. He would have scared me in the pile.
You never get it. We got on Byron about that. You know that.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, I was doing something. Yeah. I like to catch the replay because Herschel Walker was my favorite player on the New Jersey Generals. I was a New Jersey General fan. Him, Doug Flutie, Maurice Carthen, Donald Trump, the owner. What a wild bunch there. But and they didn't win the USFL title.
No, they didn't. They
never won the championship, So,
I think the Philadelphia Stars won it, didn't they?
Stars, yeah. I went to some Stars games. Stars, Calvin Bryant, Chuck Fusina. Terrific players in that league. You didn't consider playing in that league, did you?
Not really, but the Arizona Wranglers drafted me first, and they got my rights, but I wasn't going there. And I loved Arizona, but I wasn't going there. Arizona, the Dallas Cowboys, you really don't have much.
Yeah, no comparison.
Not at all.
Young Jim Kelly in that league.
There was some great players.
Todd Steve Young. Steve Young was there. There was a lot of good players there. And he lasted a lot longer than people expected him to, believe it or not. I think that went on for about 8 years.
Reggie White was in that league.
Yes, Reggie White was in there.
Yeah.
There was some really good players in there.
A lot of great players in there. So, Jim, we went over to college pretty good. I don't know if you have a favorite college team or not, but we went over there. Well, we talked a little bit about Jim Harbaugh, right? A former great coach in the NFL. He brought the 49ers to the Super Bowl. Could have won that. That's the day the lights went out in Georgia, but it wasn't in Georgia, right? Yes, exactly. His brother came back and beat him with the Ravens in the last half. They were all over the Ravens.
Yes, yes.
But he goes down to Ohio. He goes down, to Michigan, and he went there with the promise of rebuilding that program. And not that they don't have a good team, but they really haven't had a great team. I mean, they lose to Ohio State regularly. They lost to Michigan State. They lose to them regularly, even against Penn State. What do you think? I mean, if you're running Michigan, and Michigan, of course, the history of Michigan is unbelievable with their winning, their tradition there. I mean, the athletic director seems happy with Jim Harbaugh, but I don't know if the kids and the fans of Michigan are happy with Jim Harbaugh. What do you think?
I know Jim personally, and he's really good. He's different now, but he's a good guy. But I'll tell you this: if there's a problem in Michigan, the Chicago Bears will hire him tomorrow.
You're right.
He will be head coach of the Chicago Bears. He will have a job. Jim is a really good coach, and he went into a difficult situation, and he has improved Michigan. He's made them more competitive, and he's done really good things with Michigan. He just can't get over the hump. He just unfortunately ran into a Mel Tucker team, and that running back who probably has got a chance to win the Heisman.
197.
I mean, he's a transfer from Wake Forest.
Yeah.
I mean, this Mel Tucker got these transfers. He was like an NFL team. He was going into the trade portal and got all these guys, and they've helped him a lot. But Jim Harbaugh is a good coach, and he does a good job wherever he's been. He's had success. He just can't get over the top. Unfortunately, he's in a league with Ohio State, and Ohio State is a different animal. I mean, you see that when you see that on draft day, how many great players they have on Ohio State. It's the same thing with Alabama. You got two probably really the best teams in history of college football.
You know, Tyrann Mathieu on the Chiefs was just complaining about the fan base, the Kansas City fan base. That made me think, watching the Michigan State game, watching the intensity of the fans. Isn't the college fan base a lot tougher to deal with than an NFL fan base? No. Because it was brutal with the alumni and everything you have to put up with. Couldn't college coach feel like, I just don't want to deal with this, that the NFL might actually feel like less pressure? But people think going to college is less pressure. I think going to the NFL is less pressure for coach.
Well, the problem with college now is it's changed. First of all, the NIL rules. Now it's not really teams, it's individuals, because you got quarterbacks making almost $2 million. The quarterback at Alabama is making $2 million. Spencer Rattler, before he got benched, was making $1 million. I mean, these things happen as Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, and it has changed. The game has changed. When I was in college football a couple of years ago, we went from spring ball to recruiting. As soon as spring ball was over, we were recruiting. We were all over the country recruiting. So I wasn't home but one day a week. And then also after after spring ball, you would in recruiting, you would go on these traveling camps all over the country. You got about a week, 2 weeks off, and then you're right back at it, getting prepared for the next season. It is a grind on college. I don't know how some of those guys do it.
Can I just ask Mac and you, Jim, a question? That money that the college kids are getting, do they get that money immediately? And if they do, shouldn't something be set up where it should be put in an annuity that they can't touch it until they're age 30, 35? Because to a college student, that would be an eternity. So they wouldn't be spoiled by the money, but they know it would be there later on.
That's a good question, but I don't know how it's set up. And I don't know how they get it. We had a situation here in Texas, in Southlake, and it's a high school here, and they had a really good quarterback. He was the #1 rated quarterback in the country, and he was supposedly going to be a senior, although he opted out of it. And there's running backs, there's other positions. They're opting out of their senior year and immediately going to college. And
Jim, I don't know how you could force an annuity on a guy that's over 18 years old, right? If you're a college kid, you're an adult. So how can you? I don't know how you could force that in any way. If that's what you're going to give him, he's an adult. He can get an attorney or whatever he's got to do. I don't know how you could. You can't. I don't think you could force them to put in an annuity and make them wait if they're an adult. I don't think you
Trust
can.
fund.
Yeah, I don't think you can. If
I
they're
don't
under
think you
8,
can.
if
But-
they're under 18, yes. If they're under 18, I would think you could. But when you're an adult, I don't think they can make you
Yeah.
put in the trust fund,
Yeah.
So anyway,
Problem you have with this is it's really not the players. It's the families and the parents. They see this money out here and they're saying, wait a minute, I've been raising this kid for 17, 18 years and he's going to make this? Shoot, I'm going to get into the pot too. And a lot of
no
these,
doubt.
I hate to say that, a lot of these families are saying that if if you're struggling and you got a kid who's a superstar. I just read a story about a kid out in North Carolina in basketball who just signed with Puma, and he's just turning 17. He can't go into the NBA until he's 19.
Right.
He signed one of the biggest deals with Puma that's ever been. And that's just the way it is. This is the reality of our reality now. And it's scary. It's opening Pandora's box.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it and how a lot of downfalls are going to happen with this, especially when college is going to be used just for as it is now, just for sports, but even more so now. If the kids get hurt in college and they don't go to college to learn anything,
Exactly.
you're gonna have a couple lives that are.
I mean,
yeah,
it's just not athletes, but anybody. College is supposed to be an area where you learn to live life and learn and it's supposed to be fun.
Listen, because you had Herschel Walker on your show, I'm going to mention it. I still laugh when I think of his college coach, Vince Dooley, when Herschel Walker went out early, and that was a historic thing at the time, leaving early to sign with the Generals to get a few $1 million, which was massive, massive money back then. Vince Dooley said, I'm sorry for that boy not getting his college education. And I'm figuring you got a few $1 million, you could go back to school later on. That's, you get the money when you can. I would tell any young person, you could get a couple of $1 million. You gotta grab it.
Yeah, you do, but you also got to realize is that going to last you the rest of your life?
There you go.
And that's
there
the
you
thing.
go.
Education.
And what do you spend? Yeah. And what do you spend it on, Jim? Right? If I'm a young kid, I get a couple million. I got a new car. I'm doing a lot of things that I shouldn't do. So anyway, folks.
Fast women.
I was going to leave that alone, Jim. Thanks for bringing it up.
Mac, that's you. Some of us are more responsible, Mac.
That's very true. Speaking of responsible.
Jack, I can see you now, Jack. And you're in boxing. You'd have a couple women on your arms. You'd have that Maserati. Or
right, and the ring girl too.
I never got to that point, so we can move on.
We could say, here she comes with her card, round number 2, featuring Jack Hirsch. Robert Butler backstage, folks. Let's bring him on. Speak of a responsible, well-dressed man. Every girl's crazy for a sharp-dressed man, and that is Robert Butler. So let's bring him up.
Me and ZZ Top. That's right.
Rob, I could see you hanging out at the swimming pool with a suit and tie now.
Yes. Well, this jacket's waterproof, so Just kidding.
There you go. So, Robert, we have Robert Butler from Sports Scope, host over. He does a great show. Check it out if you can. He's everywhere. He's got his own site. He's on Instagram. He's all over the place. So just look up Sports Scope with a K. Go check him out. Has a lot of commentary, a lot of opinions, and that's the big reason why I've had him coming on for almost ever. So, Robert, before we get to football real quick, I want to talk to you really quick about the NBA.
Yeah.
And the big thing I want to talk to you about, of course, seems like everybody's favorite team is the Lakers. They made 2 moves this year to bring on Westbrook and to bring in Carmelo. A couple of Hall of Famers down the road, kind of older. Westbrook has never gotten over the top. Neither has Carmelo Anthony. It kind of reminds me of the mailman and Peyton going to the Lakers late in their career to try to get a championship. With the team the way it's built right now, can you see them making a run at the championship?
No, I actually see possibly, I said this when they made the Russell Westbrook acquisition, possibly trading him before the trade deadline. I mean, He hasn't got past the first round without Kevin Durant. Kind of a loose cannon, got thrown out of a game the other day against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They blew a huge lead. I know LeBron wasn't playing that game, but they blew a huge lead in that game, particularly. And then Rondo gets a fan thrown out of a game when he was putting a gun gesture in the fan's face a few games before that. So you've got two loose cannons on your team. Only way I take a guy like Westbrook is I bring him in off the bench. So no, I think they're a train wreck. I know LeBron.
I don't think it's Westbrook's attitude, Rob. I think it's just his style of game is a little too powerful for the team concept. That's what I think it is. I don't think it's an attitude. I think he's got a great attitude and he brings tremendous energy. It's just, yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
He's a hard worker. And you see it all the time. He gives everything he has, and you make good points. But I think that he isn't a loose cannon. I think he's just got to understand that this is AD and LeBron's team, and he's just a piece of it.
Yeah, well, I kind of happen to agree with Robert, and I'll tell you why. I think that that's LeBron James' team, and I agree with the point. You got to bring him off the bench, and probably when you bring him off the bench, LeBron shouldn't be playing. I think that Westbrook, as Jack says, is big personality. I think he is a lot like LeBron, but smaller, right? I mean, he does triple doubles, he shares the ball, he drives to the hoop. It's LeBron's game, but he's smaller, and he's a definite Hall of Famer. Carmelo Anthony is coming off the bench, contributing. But I don't think the chemistry is going to be right for the Lakers when they go into the playoffs. That's the only thing I'm worried about with the Lakers. Is the chemistry.
But the last time they won the championship, Rondo was on the team, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So Westbrook, to me, just like you said, if he comes off the bench, I mean, and if he can get his scoring touch back, he's a scorer, and that helps you later in the season. Everybody's panicking, but it's still early in the season. I mean,
it's very true.
They have time. Look at Golden State. Golden State is up right now, but as the season progresses, you'll see different things, and we'll see. You just got to wait a little bit.
We'll see how Klay Thompson is when he comes back. If Klay Thompson is in form, Golden State's going to have a really big year, whether they win it or not.
Very true. So let's get back to football, which we're here for, Robert. So, we have Dak, who has got a strained calf. He's probably not going to play against Minnesota, which kind of gives Minnesota a big edge. The calf strain is on the same leg as his ankle injury was. So is this going to, in your opinion, does this stop the Cowboys from going to the Super Bowl this year? I mean, they got all the tools. And if he's got a problem with that leg and he pulls it or he gets hit or whatever, that would be the end of the Cowboys' run to me anyway. I mean, Dak is probably, the most important cog on that offensive team. If they have to go to a backup quarterback or if he's hurt, do you think that's going to hurt the Cowboys this year, making that Super Bowl run?
Guys, I think if they rush this calf injury back and he tears his Achilles, that could withhold them from making to the Super Bowl. Damon Woody said this the other day. He was on this show, Get Up, and he said, I felt pretty good from this calf strain. I knew I was a little premature, but I know the team needed me. And he says, I ended up tearing my Achilles. They're number 2 in rushing offense. They're the highest scoring team in the league this year, as of today on the average. You know what? With a 3-game lead, you got to let this guy healed up completely. I mean, this is a great defense for Cowboys standards. And you look at the rushing attack and all those weapons, I just wouldn't rush it back. I know Jerry Jones likes to play as stars in the big games on nighttime and everything, but you really got to look. I mean, this is a 17-game season. We're not even halfway there technically.
Again, someone takes a cheap shot at Jerry Jones once again. What's the man ever done?
Wait a minute. Robert, a good defense by Cowboys standard? I was
my bad, man.
Hey, Robert's saying historically the Cowboys have had a poor defense.
From last year.
Historically, he's saying. But, guys, Rob, this is what bothers me, guys. Rob, the NFL injury report, the whole concept of it's supposed to be for gambling purposes so someone doesn't have an edge. That's why it was invented, where teams have to come out with an injury report. But whenever a quarterback like Dak Prescott is listed as questionable, there's a 99% chance he's going to play, But but Jim could answer this from the defensive side. Don't you have a little bit of doubt? Doesn't that maybe throw you off just a teeny bit in the back of your mind? Well, what happens if he doesn't play? Who might be the next man up? What we might have to do against him? So wouldn't that give the Cowboys a tiny edge by just listing him as questionable as opposed to definite, even though we know he's going to play?
Here's the thing. I think they're messing with the Vikings. They want them to prepare for Cooper Rush and Dak. Just watching videos of practice, Dak was moving around pretty good, and that might not mean Cooper Rush took all the team plays. Dak took all the pre-team plays. So I don't know.
First team reps.
Yeah, all the first team reps. But I don't know if he'll play. But he did look good moving around, and it did look like he would be okay. They said it was Michael Gallup is coming back, and I think it was 3 or 4 weeks with a similar injury. So I don't know, but it's a different position, a receiver and quarterback, obviously. But I don't know if he'll play, but I would anticipate him playing. I think they're trying to get the Vikings to have to do more work and prepare for 2 quarterbacks.
Well, I'll tell you, if I was a head coach, Jim, he wouldn't play. With that game of lead, he wouldn't play at all with me. I'd rather take my shot with the running game and Cooper Cup or whatever they
Cooper Rush, yeah,
Cooper Rush or whatever. I would take my shot there. I'd let him rest this game. It's not a big deal. If it was a big game, it was a division game, I'd play him. But against the Vikings, you can never afford to lose a game. And not saying you couldn't win without Dak either. But I would hate to have my star quarterback get hurt.
You're right, but I don't know. I don't know if he'll play. And those are the reasons he might not play. Just what you mentioned.
And I think teams don't put enough emphasis on how important backup quarterbacks are, because the Cowboys would have been better served today, at least, if Andy Dalton was their backup.
Yes.
Yeah, and Andy Dalton himself, I may be thinking he would have been better off backing up Zach Prescott as opposed to Justin Fields now.
Yes. Pickles brings up, I love that name, Pickles Lebanon, brings up, Bill Belichick used to have Tom Brady's questionable every game. I mean, he just played. Oh, I love that.
They got like 30 players questionable every single week. That is true.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I'll list everybody. I think he listed a couple of his coaches on injury report too. So very interesting over there. We always see teams every year. A team comes almost not out of nowhere, but they're close. I'll give you an example. The Eagles, right? When they beat the Patriots, they had a good team. We didn't expect them to run for the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, right? Is the Cincinnati Bengals that team this year, Robert? I mean, we know about Burrows. We know they got a good running back. We know Burrows can throw the ball, but that defense is top 5. And they showed up against Baltimore as one of the most physical offensive teams in the league. Yeah. I mean, is Cincinnati that team this year, Robert?
Well, they're 7th against the run, 5th in points allowed. Cincinnati, 5th in points allowed. Only thing you guys saw Thursday's game. When the stakes get higher, is coaching going to be an issue? Time management in close games. We know the quarterback's there. We know the talent is there. Zach Taylor was a quarterback coach getting hired as a head coach and highly criticized because he was never even a coordinator. Very young guy, like 36 years old, coming out of Sean McVay's coaching tree there. So my issue is the coaching in the big games, clock management, time management, adjustments. But I would say no with Zach Taylor. But when you've got this kind of talent and you got the quarterback play from Joe Burrow, anything's possible.
Listen, I mean, we've seen teams come out of, like I said, not nowhere. I mean, San Francisco, when they went to the Super Bowl, if you remember, they didn't. I don't even think they had a 500 team, but you could see them coming. You just didn't expect them to go to the Super Bowl. You said, wow, that team's pretty competitive. And in the following year, there they were. So, and the same thing with the Eagles. The Eagles won it. So, I think, I don't know about you, Jim. I don't really worry about the head coach as much as I do their coaching staff, right? I mean, you look at the Eagles, or let's take the Jets, for example, right? And I know Jack hates it when I go here. But they got a young head coach, and they hired a never offensive coordinator that never was a coordinator before you brought him over. And I think that hinders the Jets more than the new head coach. I mean, you gotta have people around you that have been around the game. And if you have people like that around you, they can advise you that there's no reason why they can't. And, you may have some crazy ideas. Even with time management, I think they could help you out. As long as you know the offense is running good, the defense is running good, the head coach is the overseer. But when you got a newer head coach, isn't it important you have an experienced coaching staff with them?
Yeah, they did. But if you remember in the last spring, Greg Knapp was tragically killed riding a bike. And Greg Knapp was the experience for the Jets. And it was unfortunate what happened to him. They were trying to get an experienced guy in there to help with the quarterback. And sometimes you do, but sometimes that young coach, just like we're seeing with McVay and just like you said with Taylor, they're getting better. I tell you the most interesting team and people better, and I'm not saying they're going to win a lot of games, but the Falcons are getting better. This Fitz kid is starting to become what they said he was. And I mean, they're a scary team. I wouldn't want to play them right now because they're getting their confidence up. And there's another young coach right there in Smith, and they're starting to get better.
And Dean Pease is an older coordinator. Remember, Sean McVay brought in Wade Phillips. The guy could be his grandfather. But you ran the defense pretty well. He's not insecure enough to hire someone much older than him that knows what he does not know in Sean McVay. I'm not sure if that's true for the other coaches that are young around the league, but it clearly, even though McClure is a younger coach, but you look at the veteran quarterback and a little bit of a coaching edge, Green Bay had no business winning that game. I figured that was all coaches and scheme.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that too.
When the stakes get heightened in the playoffs, I think that's how a lot of these games are going to play. Look at McVay in the Super Bowl, guys. He said he was totally overthinking the room because he's going against Belichick.
Yeah, he did admit
2018.
Yeah. Mac and myself talked about the Arizona Packers game, DeAndre Hopkins, who they didn't want to go in the game, and he puts himself in the game. And I don't care if that's a star player. He's got to get disciplined. The coach has got to come down on him. You can't do that. I can understand it with a quarterback to an extent. If it's Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes and they emotionally run out onto the field, even though the coach doesn't want them, you give them a little more slack. If it's the quarterback, your leader, you talk to him. But as great as DeAndre Hopkins is, you can't just have that. How would Jimmy Johnson have handled that?
He would. He wants guys to play. You get paid to play.
But with a bad hamstring, when you're putting yourself under that risk,
wrong or right, you're going to push yourself. That's what your competitive nature, and sometimes that's a deterrent to you. And he probably shouldn't have been in the game, but because of the injury, especially a hamstring injury with a wide receiver. But you're going to tell that kid, no, sit over here. And then if the trainers come back and say, well, it's not that serious. And he says, well, I can't go anymore. If he said, I've seen players that wouldn't play with minor injuries. So that's just the nature of it. You can't be two ways. And that's the same thing that happens to Dak. Either he can play or he can't. Hopkins thought he could get through it. And you can't fault him for that.
Which brings me, like Mac mentioned, the Bengals, the Jets before their offense. Mekhi Becton, their offense, their left tackle. There's a question about his desire, and I'm a believer. You can't teach desire. You can't push a guy to have more desire. It's got to come from within. You can discipline him to a point, but either he has the desire, he has the fire in him, or not. And sometimes teams are too patient with guys who just, they're what they are. It's just their personality. I mean, what do you think of us? You've been around guys like that who don't have that extra push, I'm sure.
Basically, really what I think, Jack, on that is you're right. It has to come from inside. Most of the great players in the NFL they're very competitive and they're extremely. It's just like if we're looking at, we talked about Green Bay a little bit. Aaron Rodgers is you can say what you want about him, but he is extremely competitive. He was hurt that they drafted another quarterback. I know he's getting long in the tooth, but he was going to prove to them that I can still play at a high level, which he is. I mean,
he's not long in the tooth, Jim.
Jim, please, let's not go to Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, Jack, let me ask, who took his helmet away? I mean, Jack, who said that DeAndre Hopkins could not go in the game? Was it Cliff Kingsbury?
Well, Cliff Kingsbury, because of his hamstring, they were concerned if he went in, he could miss a few weeks. But DeAndre Hopkins just ran on the field on his own.
Yeah, you guys know these guys around my age group, these millennials, and I was talking about this on my program the other day, like Kevin Stefanski not benching Baker Mayfield with this torn labrum. They're very passive. They're not very confrontational millennials. And to me, I grew up around the inner city, around here, where the stadium is, those projects areas. I'm an outlier. If I'm telling you not going to play, you're not going to play. I'm either going to find you, or it's going to be me and you for the job, and we'll take it up with the owner. But I'm not going to let the players do the coaching. You know, Kobe Bryant used to do that a lot, and he would say publicly, "That's why I'd probably never be an NBA coach, because I'm not going to put up with that." But that's another issue with this youth movement and coaches. They're afraid to confront the players. It's like at some point you got to.
No, I think they're afraid of the owners, Rob, because the owners have the players back ahead of the coaches back.
Well, maybe they pay them so much, and the salary cap makes it. And some of the stuff is going to happen in college, guys. What you just said.
Definitely.
Robert makes a good point. When we grew up, if the coach said it, that was it. But now players have, the owner's saying, well, I pay him this much and I pay this coach. I can get a new coach. But you know, Jim, that'll bite him in the butt in the end. If you don't have a good coach, I don't care how good your players are. Yeah, so Robert, you have to get the type of players that are team oriented. And you have to have one and to be successful. And it's harder. You have to really research it and find out what kind of player you're getting. And I'm not saying that Hopkins is a bad guy or anything, but if the head coach tells you not to go in, then you don't go in. But Cliff is, just like you said, he is a millennial, and he is easy going. And you know, I think there's coaches that have been player coaches and coaches that have been strict throughout history of football. I don't think it's really changed that much for millennials. I mean, if you're gonna be on, say, a team that was coached by Bill Parcells or now Bill Belichick, you pretty much know who runs the show. I don't care who you are, how great you are. You pretty much know that you're going to come in there, you go to work. I think Tom Landry was the same way. Jimmy Johnson was the same way. Yeah, but you look at guys like Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is different from those coaches, and he gets the maximum out of his players. There is no one way to coach. You know, I agree. Mark Levy. I agree. I mean, he got mad at me because I played 10 preseason games in one game. Well, you're lucky you weren't fined for that, Jim, to let you know. Hey, Robert, so let's get, so we were talking a little bit about, the Cardinals losing the game at the end there. AJ Green wasn't on the same page, just kind of came over from the Cardinals. You got Julio Jones now with you at Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. You know, these players were great. I mean, AJ Green, Julio Jones will probably get in the Hall of Fame, I would guess. But, they're getting older. And a lot of times when they pick up players, I feel anyway, and I could be wrong, that a lot of teams will pick up a player because of a name, right? Julio Jones has been hurt for the last few years. His production has gone down. And there's a lot of young receivers out there that are really good. And I think sometimes, and maybe you agree with me or you don't, maybe sometimes they pick up the name, right? It's Julio Jones. He was great. Do you think some teams are looking at the names more than what they've been playing like in the last year or two?
Well, Bleacher Report said the AJ Green signing was the worst in free agency. He was the third option last year at Cincinnati. He was behind Higgins and Tyler Boyd at the end. I mean, I was following every week. I scout this stuff for fantasy purposes. And so a lot of times names are picked. I mean, we remember the Albert Haynesworth signing when he didn't even fit the scheme because he was a big name in Washington years ago.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it really is just a name thing. I would totally agree with that.
I mean,
and that's a lot of the owners are probably pushing that stuff, if you ask me.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Take the case of Odell Beckham Jr. 3 years ago, he was the most dynamic receiver in the NFL. Cleveland couldn't give him away now. Yeah. I mean, no one with the cap and everything. They're stuck with Odell Beckham Jr. And imagine that, saying you're stuck with a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. That would have been incomprehensible not long ago.
But I think you guys agree with this, is that at that position, they're divas. Wide receivers are divas. And they've always been. If you look through the history of the NFL, they're divas. And that's just wide receivers. And that's just the position.
Well, Jim, I'll give you another example. J.J. Watt. All right. As great as a player he was, Hall of Famer, listen, the guy's been hurt. His production has gone down. And he's still a great defensive end. Don't get me wrong. I mean, but why would you pay all that money for J.J. Watt when the Cardinals defense was already solid? I mean, they picked up a lot of good players. They've drafted a lot. Why would you spend all that money on J.J. Watt knowing he's probably going to get hurt? I don't get it.
No, I don't get it either, but he has had success, and they think maybe a change of scenery would help him. And there's some players that have went on. I can mention one, Ted Washington. Ted Washington, later in his career, he was actually more efficient later in his career as a nose than he was early in his career. And he won Super Bowls in New England. I played with him in Buffalo. He played in Chicago. Some players, it is just the type of players, but like you said, he didn't have a lot of injuries at the end, and that helped him. And that's the thing you got to realize, is that some players, if they're at the end of their career and they're getting beat up, then you're taking a risk. And that's what they did with J.J. Watt.
But, Jim, some guys never get started with all their potential. Take Clowney, for example. A lot of people projected him to go to the Hall of Fame before his NFL career even got started. And he's shown moments of greatness, pure greatness, but he's so inconsistent.
Well, Robert could probably talk about that a little.
Yeah, boy, he was a disaster with Tennessee last year. You know something, guys, a lot of times these teams that are very young, the management and coaching staff, they're saying we need some veteran presence in the locker room to help keep these young guys in place. We're bringing them over here for more of a leadership standpoint. We're going to overpay because we're not necessarily a popular team, a popular market. It ain't Pittsburgh or Green Bay. Arizona. Remember, Arizona used to be a place where players go out to die, or go retire.
You're right.
Remember Emmitt Smith, Jim, going out to Arizona.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. Right. Listen, I'll tell you right now, I think they were foolish to get J.J. Watt. I don't know if Tennessee was smart picking up Julio Jones. I mean, there's so many players out there with so much talent that are young and ready to come on that I think teams, they look at the how they played 2 years ago, and maybe they turn it around. But I'm telling you, when you get beat up and you're there for a while, and Jim, you were lucky because you played a long career. But when you get to when you start getting to those double-digit years, man, that's hard to mend again. I mean, it's hard to get it back together again with that toll your body's been taking all those years, man. So,
well, you're right, Mac. But you take a player like a Fletcher Cox on the Eagles, and I get the feeling the Eagles are going to move on from him. He won't be with them next year. He might even go before the trading deadline if they lose to the Lions today. I'm sure some team is going to pick Fletcher Cox up, not based on what he could do on the field, but based on his leadership qualities. So, I see your point. They make sometimes a little too much.
Yeah, but he also was the same guy that told them that their defense is not as aggressive as has been in the past. Instead of trying to help their team, he's hurting their team because now there's a division. So I don't know how much of a leadership.
I don't know if calling your teammates out, I think, could be a form of leadership.
Not your coach. Not your coach, Jack. Yeah. Not your coach. Okay, so one last question before we let you go, Robert.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, analytics are funny because everybody says, well, I remember this came out. It would be better if you went for the 2-point conversion instead of doing the field goal kick. I mean, that was the rage, right, when it first come out. And as you see, after some teams have tried it, they go right back to that field goal after point. If you were a coach today and you got a touchdown, would you make a commitment to just do 2-point conversions after every touchdown?
Oh, no. You know, the Pittsburghs tried that a few years ago, and it didn't work out good for them. You're chasing points all game long. Now, that being said, for instance, Tennessee Titans, Super Bowl 1999, team is driving down the field 20 years later, almost, or yeah, there was an interview with Jeff Fisher, and the guy asked him, so, you know, if would have went for 2? And this is after Tennessee explains that, well, we had this safety out of the game, and we had this corner that got knocked out of the game. We were barely, and it's lucky to be in the game late in the game. And then the guy says, well, would you went for 2 if Steve McNair scores on that play? And he said, no, I would have kicked the extra point. And I'm thinking, well, that's why you don't have a ring. You know, you got to sum the game. Like if it's an in-game situation, we're banged up on defense, it's on the road, I'm totally going for 2. I mean, and I know that if you miss it, that you're going to get some heat for it. Yeah. But I think it's a situational thing. But I wouldn't chase points, though. Remember Pittsburgh tried that. Well, they did away with that real quick.
I mean,
no, you mentioned that, Rob. There was this high school coach, I don't remember his name, who got a degree of fame because he never punted no matter what.
Yes, it was a coach in Arkansas. I remember that correctly. I remember that.
Mm.
Well,
Rock's a fine town.
Well, he's not coaching in the college and NFL today. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert, I want to thank you for coming in as you do every week. You bring a lot to the show, and good luck to your Titans. I know you're rooting for them.
Oh man, I don't know if they're gonna win today. If they win the day, man.
That loss against the Jets is going to haunt them. That's going to be Tennessee's legacy at the end of the year. That game they're going to look back on. Wow.
We lost to Zach Wilson, guys.
And listen, Jack will never let you forget that no matter how good the Titans do this year. So, Robert, thank you for coming in. Have a great day and enjoy the games.
Good luck getting that number 1 pick next year, Jack.
I won't. They need 10 number 1s over there.
I wonder, would the Jets actually draft a quarterback? Well, I mean, you kind of have to wonder in a little bit now.
Oh, Lord. No, they'll probably get that defensive end out of Oregon, my guess.
Yeah, they probably will. You probably right.
That defensive tackle out of Georgia. Woo.
Yeah. Yeah, I seen him yesterday.
Have a good one, Robert. Go to church and cleanse your soul for being here. Yeah, take care, buddy.
All right, guys. See ya.
All right. There you go, folks. Robert Butler joins us every Sunday. He's been with us, Jack, since we started. He was with us before.
I got to be quiet because Jim got me going when he mentioned Georgia, and I'm thinking, could the Georgia defense stop the Jet offense right now?
Oh, would you?
No, come on,
Jack. Jack just says things, I think. I mean, if he's not at the bottom of the pile, he's bringing me down a different avenue. Jim, you know it's like, you ever been in a chicken coop and try to get the chickens back in the, that little house there? That's the way I feel every day with Jack. Folks, we're going to be right back after these commercial messages, very quick, and we'll have Pags with the Philly preview coming on the other side of the hour, live, folks, from Detroit, where he drove up to the Motor City, made that trip just to root for his favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll be right back after this.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Chock full of nuts is that Henley coffee, Henley coffee, Henley coffee. Chock full of nuts is that Henley coffee. Better coffee a millionaire money can't buy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner? Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight. Ooh, can Nina come over? I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink? Grandma? This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma.
I love you too. Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
It certainly is a big bun. It's a very big bun. Big fluffy bun. It's a very big fluffy bun.
Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's beef?
At Wendy's, we serve a hamburger we modestly call a single. And Wendy's single has more beef than the Whopper or Big Mac. At Wendy's, you get more beef and less bun.
Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
You want something better. You're Wendy's kind of people.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle's one of the kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac, Jack, and Jim Big Football Show as we have our co-host, the legendary Cowboy himself, two-time Super Bowl champion, Jim Jeffcoat, join us on our Sunday Big Football Show. And folks, backstage already, we're all in uniform, ready to give us his live report from Detroit. The Motor City itself is the Philly sports guy, Jamie Pags. Let's bring him on and see what's going on over there in the Detroit Motor City. What's going on, Pags?
Good morning, guys. How are you? Happy Halloween.
Yes. And you and I gotta ask, where's your costume, Pags?
You know, I was going to try to do something a little different, but you know, you don't mess with perfection. You know, and that's just kind of how I felt about it. I look great the way it is. Why even bother trying to change anything?
I agree.
That's good if you win. If your team is winning, you don't want to change anything.
Look at that. He threw the phone on the ground. He don't want to hear you, Jack.
Hey, listen. We're playing against a team who's got a worse record than us today, and maybe, just maybe, we'll come out of here with the W today.
Yes, you might, Pags. And you know, you got a very young team, a young coach over there. You got some good vets over there, some really good vets with, you know, Fletcher Cox and some really good defensive players on the side of the ball and some good offensive linemen too. You're going against a Lions team who's winless but are very tough. They barely lost to the Ravens on a 60, 80, 90-yard field goal, whatever it was, hit the crossbar, went over in the last seconds of the game, or they would have beat the Ravens. Very tough team.
Right.
So, if the Eagles do win, do they continue the season as is and don't make trades? And if they lose, do they sell out?
I think that this game is not going to matter either way in that regards. I think that we're not going to find out anything about the team today. You know, that only thing that we're going to find out about the team today is if the players have quit on the coach. That's what I feel like is going to be the biggest thing today. The players have enough talent to win this game without the coaching involved. So that's what I feel like they have to do to prove that they aren't quitting. You know, and the coach had a very weird press conference. The national media has been killing us, in terms of the way that he's been treating the team and how he's treating these adults. You could tell he's like a new coach. And so I'm interested to see how we come out and perform. If we, like I said, I feel like that certain times pride has got to take part in what you're doing. And these players are prideful.
Pags, Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell are both first-year head coaches. But Dan Campbell, even though they haven't won a game, the Lions and the Eagles have won a couple, there's no dissension, in the Lion locker room that's been reported. They seem pretty united, the whole coaching staff. So what's the difference between that and the Eagles?
Well, I mean, the Lions have been battling in every game. And in some cases, the Eagles, it feels like that they're not giving 100% effort. And that's the biggest difference. You know what I mean? When you go and you are, again, you bring the Ravens to the brink. They've been in every game. They've only lost each game by like 4 points or so. They haven't learned how to win the tight games yet. And that comes with time. And, so my expectation is that Detroit's on the upswing. Even though their record is 0-7, they're on the upswing because they are battling, they are competing, and they bought into what the coach is telling them. I am not 100% certain that the Eagles have done that yet. And that's the question.
And that's the question I was going to ask you. Fletcher Cox said last week he is questioning the scheme of the Philadelphia defense, and that's concerning right there. When you have one of your supposed leaders starting to question the scheme publicly, now you got some issues.
Yeah, and I think that he's right. I mean, obviously his numbers are way down, and he's saying that he's playing more coverage, and he's not a coverage guy. I mean, that's kind of what he was announcing. He's like, hey, listen, I don't want to play the screen. I am paid to go after the quarterback. And if you're going to have me play the screen, I'm going to have to do what you tell me to do because that's what I'm getting paid to do. But that's not what I'm good at. I go after the quarterback, and that's what's most important to me. And if you're going to have me, play coverage, and I feel like that's what's going on throughout the entire defense. Like Gannon came highly touted as a guy who was ready to become a head coach, and I just don't see it. Like I feel like a good coach uses their personnel the best way they can to be able to get accomplished what they need to get accomplished. And I haven't seen that from Gannon. I feel like the only good game plan that they had was against Atlanta. I feel like that we got lucky. He started to blitz more against Carolina, and it actually helped us and propelled us to a win at the end of the game. But every other game, it's been kind of wishy-washy, and that's concerning to me. The Eagles have always been known for a good defense, and our defense is much better than what they're showing. And I feel like that's done with coaching.
So what do you think is going to happen? Say the Eagles finish on a downswing, and I'm saying this is an important game for what Jim brought up, right? You got Fletcher Cox, who seems unhappy. I mean, if you're rebuilding a team, you don't want to keep around people that are unhappy, or you got to make changes at coach. So say the Eagles do lose today. I don't think they will, but say they do. Does Fletcher Cox get moved?
Well, you have to have a really good dance partner for him because he's owed a lot of money this year, and I think that you need to have the cap space to have him right now. So can I guarantee that he's going to be moved? No, but I've heard rumblings about the Titans, possibly Tampa Bay, maybe. I've heard about Slay going to Tampa Bay because they need help in their secondary.
Yeah.
So the rumblings are all around. And the one thing that I will say Howie Roseman is best at is trades. The NFL never used to have trades. It used to go all season long, never hear about a trade. Now you're hearing about trades all the time, and that was sort of spawned by Howie Roseman. And I feel that as we get into, it doesn't matter what happens in this game, I think that there's going to be some moves that are made. Now, we've already got 11 draft picks. I mean, 11 draft picks is a lot. And that's what 20% of a team that you could change over in one draft. So trading Fletcher Cox, I mean, who's going to give up a first-round pick for him? And then we're going to have 4 first-round picks. I mean, that's a lot, because that's what you would need, or else you're not getting quality back.
And I think sometimes a player like a Fletcher Cox unfortunately develops an image of having not the best attitude when they complain. But in defense of Fletcher Cox, any other player who's been in the league a lot of years and has been kind of a star in the league, sometimes a new coach is brought in and they feel the coach knows less than they do. So you can't condemn them for not really respecting the coach. They can be polite to a coach, follow what the coach says, but you can't, respect has to be earned. And obviously, Fletcher Cox, his respect wasn't earned.
Well, and I have to imagine that, and that's obviously he's starting to talk now. He didn't talk at the beginning of the season. He brought in, says, okay, this is what we're going to do, and then you start to lose. And I tell you, if you're winning, everything's beautiful. Nobody cares. It's like, okay, because you're winning games. When you start losing games, you start questioning. And once you start questioning, you start trying to think, you start overthinking things. Like, well, should we do this way? Should we have done this way? Maybe if he doesn't have me in coverage and I go after the quarterback, I would be doing more. So I think that there's a lot. There's a lot that's going into this. And like I said, this game is going to show a little bit more on the defense. I feel that the Eagles should win this game just on talent alone. And I want to see if these players have pride. Because if they don't have pride, they're going to come out and lay an egg here, and Detroit's going to win this game. And at that point, in theory, the season's over.
And also on the Fletcher Cox situation, to answer Jack's question, this is family business. If you have a problem with some of the things that are being done, you have to be a man and go in to the defensive coordinator and have reasons why you feel this is not effective for us. You just can't do it out publicly, because now you're putting everybody under the bus. You're not just putting yourself under the bus, you're putting the team under the bus, because you're not the only one. Another guy says it now, you have chaos. So you got to do it the right way. And that's the thing I'm saying.
But Jim, maybe he did that from the very beginning, and you can only keep tight-lipped for so long. Finally, your frustration boils over because you have been keeping it inside for so long.
No, but you still can't do that, because that puts everybody.
I'll give you a reason. He wants out of Philadelphia if that coaching ring stays. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Well, and I can believe that. And I tell you what, I mean, so he's very close to Jeffrey Lurie. I mean, so Jeffrey Lurie loves his great players. He was really close to Peters. He's close to Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox has a lot more clout than most. You're not going to hear that come from any of these other players, But when they did that whole flower thing, when Sirianni started talking about, watering the flowers and fertilizing every day, I mean, if I was Fletcher Cox, I would cringe. I'm like, oh, what are you doing, man? Like, what is the story here? I'm an adult. You know what I mean?
Come on, Pags. Football and flowers go together perfectly. What are you talking about?
Exactly. I'm right there with you. Because, hey, listen, it's played on grass. You know what I mean? So you got even just grass he could have gotten away with. But when he started talking about the flowers and blooming and really, it's I mean, this isn't high school ball. No. This isn't Pee-wee. These are adults here.
And you're in Detroit, where the sirens are going and there's demonstrations. And,
I got some Detroit fans here now coming in.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see him.
Everybody coming on
the legend is here now.
There you go.
I thought you were repeating. I was going to tell you
We're going to see an Eagles victories if Mark Wahlberg's on the field today.
Hey, fellas, good morning from Detroit.
Good morning to you guys. Good morning to you. Hey, Pags, keep them going. Don't back down, Pags. I don't care how tough Detroit is. You're tougher. I know that.
Oh, wow. Well, listen, I proved last week that I'm the loudest fan in the NFL. In the middle of the black hole, when they were saying, wow, man, you are loud. We want you to keep it down a little bit. So Detroit's nothing. I tell you what, but they do have a passionate fan base. Even though they're 0-7, there's already a bunch of tailgates going on here. This is a great town. It's a working man's town. It's just like Philadelphia. So I love being up here. It's a lot of fun. And even though they're tough, don't worry, I'm ready to go, baby.
The guy in the sunglasses looks better than you.
So I tell you what, when we were at the draft, we were the two best dressed of the draft.
Yes.
They brought us up on stage.
Yes, there you go. He's definitely styling there in Detroit. I'll let you go, but Pickles, the GM for the Titans, is going hard after Mr. Cox, just to let you know. So we'll see you. Get back to work, buddy. Get the Eagles a victory out there for them, and have a great day, man. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, you
go Birds! Yes.
Go Birds. I love that dude. Right in the middle of Detroit. He don't care. That's why I love the guy.
I'd like to work out a trade for Pags to come over for the Jets tailgating dressed up, in the Jets gear.
You do have a jet man, and I have contacted him before. I've had him on a show once, but I think he wears a license plate. I don't know.
We don't get the intensity. We had Fireman Ed, help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fireman Ed. Maybe I'll try and get in contact with him and get him on. Maybe we'll do like a tag team, Eagles versus the Jets or something,
Yeah, but who does the Redskins have now? Or, Washington football team.
Right, exactly. There is a Washington guy that comes on. I think it's called the Hogs or something, a Hog guy or something that,
he is a fanatical Washington fan.
Well, hey, listen, we'll bring him on, Jim. I mean, listen, what are you going to do with Washington? I mean, they're confused over that.
Daniel Snyder's wife knows what she's doing running that team.
Yes, she does. Daniel Snyder's wife is all over it. So don't make fun of anybody's wife. What's wrong with you?
No, I'm not making, but she's running the team now. Knows what she's doing.
You're gonna watch the show and think you don't like women running football games. See what you're doing.
Listen.
We get in trouble for that.
No, I'm not getting in any trouble. I'm saying the right thing. They can look at the transcript.
Jack is all
some stability there, in my opinion.
God, folks,
to clear up what happened in the past. There's a little.
I'm trying to do a politically correct show, which I can't do, and Jack just drags me right down another road every day. I'll tell you.
Miss Snyder, I'm right with you. I think
you keep doing that great job you're doing, and don't listen to that idiot.
They need a win. A win solves everything. Like in the case of Urban Meyer.
Right.
He was in the news all over. They win a game, and and that's the best medicine in the NFL. Win.
Right. Yes.
It takes care of everything if you win.
Yes, it does. Except if you're the Los Angeles Rams owner, when they were winning, that didn't take care of nothing over there. I don't even want to bring that up. Folks, we'll be right back after these messages. Our last break as me, Jack, and Jim break down your NFL. That's what we get paid the big bucks for. And we'll be right back after these messages.
That's what Pickles has been waiting for.
Yes, Pickles can't wait to pick with us. Carlos sometimes gets involved. We got a couple guys that come in and make their picks with us. And, of course, last week, folks, I got one game out of all games wrong. And it was the team that I'm a fan of, and that's the team I picked against and I lost. So I don't know what to do this week. So we'll be right back after these messages, folks. Stick with us as we break down the NFL games today.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
My baloney has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R. My baloney has a second name, it's M-A-Y-E-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day. If you ask me why, I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with B-L-O-G-N-A.
Oscar Mayer, the first name in Bologna.
How's that?
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Infoline. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
I heard you want to be a frito bandito like me. You do. Then you must sing the bandito song. Let's sing together. You just follow the bouncing Fritos corn chips bag. Ay, 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 ay. I am the frito bandito. Hey, I like Fritos corn chips. I love them, I do. I want Fritos corn chips. I'll get them from you. Ay, 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 ay. Oh, I am the frito bandito. Give me Fritos corn chips and I'll be your friend. The frito bandito, you must not offend. Now, boys and girls, you are frito banditos too. You sing the frito bandito song and you loco for crunchy Fritos corn chips. That's nice. Munch, munch, munchy bunchy Fritos corn chips.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac, Jack, and Jim Big Football Show as we come to you every Sunday, 8 a.m. Mac and Jack Sports is on Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. And, of course, I'm Mac, Jack Hirsch, and the two-time Super Bowl winning champion, Jim Jeffco. So they got a great show on Wednesdays called J&B Talking Shop. Be sure to check it out on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube. That's 8 p.m. On Eastern Time Zone, 7 p.m. Central. Jack, of course, is the host of a co-host of one of our good shows on Monday night called Glove Fist, and Frank Lutierzo joins him. A great boxing show, folks. So if you love boxing, check that out. So they're both on the YouTube channel with two special shows once a week. So getting back to the games, guys, or the NFL, I should say, as we start picking the games. As I said before, I think this is a crossroads for a lot of teams, especially the teams with losing records, right? The Patriots, at 4-5. Cleveland is are they good? Are they bad? Pittsburgh playing them a big game this week. The Giants, if they're going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs at all, anytime in the next couple of years, this is their game. I mean, they're really having problems with Kansas City. So we're going to get through all the games, folks, and we're going to start with Carolina, Atlanta. Jimmy made a great point. I think Atlanta is coming on right now. Carolina is kind of dropping off. Carolina's getting 2 points at Atlanta. Who do you guys like? Start with you, Jack. What do you like?
No, I'm not as high on Atlanta as I think you mentioned, Jim, that their team on the upswing. I don't quite look at them that way. I think Kyle Pitts is great at tight end, and I kind of wonder now whether the Jets should have grabbed him when they had a chance. But I'm happy with Zach Wilson. But the point is, Carolina, it's a tale of different teams. They lost their last 4 after winning their first 3. Now, all of a sudden, they're saying Sam Darnold might not be their franchise quarterback. Stephen Gilmore, at cornerback, he's making his debut. And when you're looking for a cornerback to be your savior, you might have some problems. With that said, I think Carolina does get back on track today, and they do eke out a win against Atlanta.
I'm glad you said that, Jack, because that's why I'm picking Atlanta, because you said Carolina.
You learned from last week.
I think that the experience of Matt Ryan is really helping that team, and just in how he really is controlling that offense, because he doesn't have great talent. He has good talent, but they are playing at a good level, and I think I'm going to go with Atlanta to win this game and obviously cover the points.
I'm with Jim. I think Atlanta's improving, and they're getting a little confidence with a couple tight wins there. And I think Carolina, I think Matt Rule is kind of scratching his head and saying, what the heck just happened here? I think Atlanta does cover and win the game. Miami plus 13.5 at Buffalo. Buffalo's not been playing great lately, right? They've been playing good ball, but not great. And Miami, though, what the heck happened? I mean, this was a playoff team, everybody was saying, except me in the beginning of the year. Listen, Flores is a good coach. I don't think they got a good defense. They did have a good defense. But their offense, they can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball. Their defense is not playing like it did last year. I mean, Buffalo should kill them, I think. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I think Buffalo should win by, at least a couple of touchdowns in this game. I think the job Brian Flores did last year was phenomenal because they overachieved. But now I hear there's certain dissension coming out of Miami. The players aren't thrilled with Brian Flores. He's maybe starting to lose the team. And that would be a shame because I thought he was one of the great young coaches on the rise. So I would see it would shock me if he was out of a job by next year, considering the type of coach I thought he was and was going to be. But Buffalo's just too good at this point.
I like Buffalo there, but these conference games, especially AFC East, is a little bit tougher. But I think Buffalo should get after them. I think they're a little frustrated on that last game and what happened with Tennessee. And I just think Buffalo will get after them and they'll play well. But I think what happened to Miami is what happened to Washington. They probably weren't ready, and everybody was excited about last year. But obviously, this is a new year, and there's new issues going on.
The Deshaun Watson issue very quickly, Jim. Does that hurt a team like the Miami Dolphins, even though Flores gave Tua a vote of confidence? The vote of confidence we know really doesn't mean anything with Watson.
I think that's more brand-driven than Miami. I don't think Watson will be there, but we don't know. I don't know. I don't understand. I think Tua will be fine. He's getting better, believe it or not. I know they say what, but he is getting better. I don't think he's the issue with Miami right now.
No, I agree. I think Tua's played well this year. I still don't think he's going to, be on the level of Burrows and on the level of Herbert, but I think he's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's serviceable. There's no doubt about that. San Francisco -4 Chicago. Both teams, San Francisco, me and Jim, I think both picked them to go to Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, we did.
That's not happening. There's something going on over there there's the chemistry for some reason. Maybe it was getting Trey Lance. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo keeps getting hurt. The defense started to play well a little bit last week. I saw some signs of the defense coming around. Chicago's got a good defense. And the young quarterback seems to be doing okay, but he's a young quarterback. And this is a tough call for me. I think San Francisco with their good defense shuts down that young quarterback, and I think San Francisco ekes by maybe 2 field goals. I'm going to go with San Francisco against Chicago.
Yeah, I'd share your sentiments exactly, Matt. Matt Nagy out 2 games in a row. Does he have COVID? It hasn't gotten reported to COVID protocols to miss 2 games in a row. And with the 49ers, at what point is Trey Lance going to get the quarterback job? I mean, it's there for him, to grab, but he's been hurt. He's been inconsistent. So the 49ers are going to develop into a little bit of a soap opera as long as the quarterback controversy goes on. But with that said, I would think they'd be able to eke out a win over the Bears. Very close game, though. Field goal.
I think my opinion is that 49ers obviously are not playing. Injuries have played a part in some of their problems. But I think Chicago, I don't think Khalil Mack is going to play today. And I think Chicago has more issues, and Nagy being out, and they haven't said if it's COVID or not, but I just think Chicago is a team that's in trouble. And then Nagy might have not won. He saw the offense, and he might have wanted to stay home anyway. But
I think Nagy isn't long for Chicago. I really believe he'll be gone.
But I think if Nagy goes, the GM goes too.
Well, didn't the GM get hired after Nagy? If I'm not mistaken,
they've been feuding. The reports are they don't get along that well. So in cases like that, I don't think both go together. I think the owner makes a decision, and it seems like the owners argued with. Maybe you're right. Maybe the owners told them you two better get along, and if they can't work it out, maybe they both will go.
It's possible. That's possible. It's too bad people don't realize that the top of the team makes a huge difference on the field. It really does, because you got 2 people saying 2 different things. And, even though the head coach is the guy that you report to, if there's problems between them, I mean, I imagine as a player, you want to start picking sides because you don't know who's going to be there or who's not going to be there, right?
Looks like I don't think either one of them is going to be there, myself personally, I think. But if you're going to pick one, it's the guy that's making the decisions, and that's probably the GM.
Yeah, because he's the one that's going to trade you, not the head coach. Yeah. Pittsburgh at Cleveland, to me, this is a prime game for either team. Either team wins this, I think they have a shot at maybe getting a wild card because that division is so tight. Cleveland with Baker Mayfield, hurt or not hurt, when he's not playing, it looks like the same team when he is playing. We should just start ignoring OBJ. I mean, he really hasn't done nothing the last couple of years there. It's Jarvis Landry when he plays. It's the tight ends and it's the running game. That's what Cleveland's all about. Pittsburgh knows they got to run the ball to win that game. Big Ben is playing better, if you could call it that. I mean, he's sure not what he was. So I'm going with Pittsburgh with the 3 points. I don't know. I'm just going to take Pittsburgh.
I picked Cleveland in the beginning of the year to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to abandon ship yet, but I feel uncomfortable about this game. I really do. It's a real toss-up. Whoever can run the ball better, I think, is going to win this game. And is Baker Mayfield going to be playing at all?
I heard he's gonna. I don't know.
I mean, are they going to go with Case Keenum? Is it a game-time decision? But with that being the case, it's still going to come down to who could run the ball a little better. And I think Cleveland's running game is better than Pittsburgh's. And I have to feel that Cleveland, their defense is going to show up a little more than they have this year, and they're going to win the game.
You make good points, but I'm still going to go with Pittsburgh. I don't trust you anymore, Jack, after last week.
Even with the dog pound in Cleveland.
What did you say?
Even at the dog pound in Cleveland, I mean,
No, I just think Pittsburgh is starting to. We talked about teams that are starting to move in the right direction, and Pittsburgh might be one of them. And the same thing that's happening with San Francisco is happening with Cleveland. They're getting some Jarvis Landry, another knee injury, and they're getting injuries, and that's what's killing them. Baker Mayfield, it's not his throwing shoulder, it's non-throwing shoulder, but that's still painful.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what's hurting Cleveland more than just going out there on the field, and their defense is, like we said, is not playing as well as they should be.
Jim, is being gun shy going to be an issue with Baker Mayfield? He's maybe being so scared to get tackled and fall on the bad shoulder. No.
I don't think so. I think he'll play, and what they're going to do is they'll have some. They will put some medication in his shoulder to alleviate the pain.
You know, Jack, when you played, I know Jim knows this. When you played, I've been injured playing too. When the game starts, that injury you don't even think about. You really don't. I mean, you just play, and I mean, you're reminded of it sometimes when you get hit really good, but you really don't think about it when you go out there and you get on the field. You're just ready to go, and your mind is just, your mind doesn't even think about it until something happens at the bottom of the pile, Jack.
Mike Tyson plan. Everyone has a plan until they get hit. So Baker Mayfield will be fine mentally until he's tackled and lands on the shoulder. Then what's going to be?
And if he's playing,
I must say medication they put on his shoulder because he might not feel it.
I guarantee you, Jim, if he does play, they're going to blitz the hell out of him. I guarantee it. They're going to come after him big time. So we just had the Philly sports guy on Pags talking about Detroit. Philadelphia is favored by 3 points against Detroit. Detroit, again, has been competitive. But you want to know something? I kind of agree with Pags. I think Philadelphia is more talented than Detroit right now. And even though they're losing close, they're still losing. And to win, I think Detroit beats a good team like they almost did Baltimore. I don't think Philadelphia's a good team. Philadelphia wants this win. I think Baltimore goes in saying, it's the Detroit Lions. Philadelphia ain't going to go in there saying, it's just the Detroit Lions. They're fighting for their life right now. I think the coaches are fighting for their lives right now. Players may be fighting for their jobs right now. I think Philadelphia goes in there and they beat Detroit by at least a touchdown, to be honest with you.
I don't think the first-year coaches are really quite fighting for their job.
I think he is, Jack.
With Philadelphia, they haven't committed to the running game all season long. And with their best running back, Miles Sanders, on injured reserve, I can't imagine them running too much today. So that means Jalen Hurts has to beat you with his arm, the Lions. And something about the chemistry on the Lions. They played – every game has been so competitive. They've got to get over the top at some point, and this is a perfect opportunity. So I'm going to go with the Lions today to win a reasonably close game.
I hate to say it. I'm sorry, Mac, but I got to agree with Jack on this. I think the Lions are due. And that's not a knock against Philly. It's more that the Lions are playing at a level. And you make a good point. Philly's not overlooking the Lions. They're not saying, hey, this is a win. They didn't put it as a W. I just think the Lions and Campbell he still has those kids behind him. Philly, and just to your point, Philly must win this game because winning covers a lot of bad things, and something's going on in Philly we are not privy to. And if they lose this game, it might blow up for whatever they have.
Well, according to Pags, Jim, they're going to be opening at one of those, those houses what they call greenhouses, because they're going to be planting a lot of flowers. Flowers.
I never heard Coach Landry or Jimmy Johnson say that. Even Marv Levy's never said that about it. Barry Switzer definitely didn't say that.
Never use that analogy, huh? Never.
No. It's funny what Jim says about winning, solving everything, because when an NFL player gets traded, you have to live somewhere else for part of the year. And some of the cities under normal circumstances are less appealing to live in than others. But if that city has a tremendous winning tradition, that makes it so much easier to move there. Like, who would normally want to move to Green Bay on their own? I mean, it's rare, but if you're going to the Green Bay Packers, a historical franchise, it might even put a smile on players' faces.
That is true. You make a good point.
And so does Pickles.
Pickles said they plant flowers at funerals.
Yes, they do. In cemeteries and at funerals, they bring them. So, great point by Pickles. I'm glad you're on picking the games with us, Pickles. So Tennessee, who's been playing well. I mean, they've been running. You got the best running back in the league by far. Maybe the best offensive line. Maybe we should start talking about Tennessee's offensive line like I did in the past. Maybe the best offensive line in the league. Next to Cleveland. right? I mean, that zone blocking they do is out of sight. Derrick Henry picks that seam, hits it hard. Going against the Colts, and the Colts have not been playing bad lately either. Tennessee's getting 1.5 at opening line, guys. I'm going to go with Tennessee. What do you think, Jeff?
I think the Colts might have the best run defense in the league. If anyone can contain Derrick Henry, it's them. I don't think Ryan Tannehill slips under the radar. He's a game manager. I don't think Ryan Tannehill beats you himself. Indianapolis is desperate. If they're going to win the division, it's practically a must game for them today. I think Indianapolis, wins a tight one.
Wow. I was thinking about this game. There's obviously Henry is another guy that's playing at a high level, but the things you mentioned about Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, they've been a little banged up. But I think that Indianapolis, they came out last week in a tough Seattle, meaning that they had to play there in the weather, and they played okay. But I just think that Tennessee, they're going to find a way to win this game. I think Tennessee, I worry about Tennessee's defense, but I think they'll find a way to win this game.
So we have Cincinnati going against the Jets. They're favored by 8.5. I think Cincinnati should feel insulted by this spread. I mean, seriously, if I was the Bengals right now, I'd have that hanging in my locker room. We're only favored by 8.5. And I would fuel me to want to really take it to the Jets. We may see Joe Flacco. Who knows? We don't know. I don't think Joe can play the first game back. I think he has to wait 1 week before he can play. But he'll definitely be on the sideline. It's that pup list, I think, Jim, where you got to wait 1 week. I think
do that.
Yeah, I think they have to wait 1 week before they play with a new team. I'm not sure if it applies to trade. I know there's some rule in the NFL where you got to wait a week. But
I thought that was if there was a game that if you're traded on the game day week.
Right.
We had that earlier in the year with Zach Ertz.
Right.
That's why, because they played on a Thursday. So I'm not sure.
It could be. So we may see Flacco. We might see him make an appearance.
He was awful last year when he quarterbacked for the Jets. So,
Johnny Unitas, as they say, Johnny Unitas would look terrible in the Jets last year.
Flacco's like an actor who starred in movies and now he just does mid-level commercials. Basically, I look at it. Come on. I'm still mad at that deal, giving up a draft choice for I won't even call it a quick fix. Bengals are just bad at this point. With the Jets, I don't want to overanalyze the game. It's about attitude. Robert Saleh's a defensive guy, and the Jet defense wasn't bad in the losses for most of the year. Last week they were dreadful against New England. I just want to see a semblance of pride, them play tough, them be competitive. I want them to play for Robert Saleh the way the Lions are for Dan Campbell, at least. You're going to lose the games. You hang in there. You make it hard on the opposition. I want to see the defense make it hard on Joe Burrow, okay? I want to see them contain Jamar Chase. And, they're not going to beat the Bengals, but I want to see them keep it competitive. Bengals should win something like 31-13, I think. But what could I say?
What do you think, Jim? So Jack,
I think the Bengals after the Jets today. The Jets have obviously issues, and with Zach Wilson injured, I think they're really going to get after the Jets. Are going to have to. And the Pags they'll get a high draft pick, and it'll probably be a defensive player, I would think, or a receiver, and they will get better eventually. The Jets with Wilson, they'll get better, but I'm picking the Bengals to cover.
Okay. We have the Rams favored by 14.5 points at the Texans. This may be a game where the Rams just don't care and Houston, stays close. I don't know. I'm taking the Rams with 14.5. It doesn't seem like enough, but you never know, right? What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, the Rams are going to roll over the Texans, beat them something like 37-3. The next couple of days are going to be interesting. The owner wants the Texans GM to trade Deshaun Watson. But the GM wants to hold off even past the trade deadline, which to me is smart because I wouldn't just give Deshaun Watson away. You could get some serious draft capital for him once this case clears up. If it does clear up, okay, it's all a big if, and I'm not getting into the particulars of that. But at this point, how would it feel to be used? They traded the Texans Ingram away, their best running back. I mean, what does that do inside the locker room? I hear the locker room's not too happy about it. So, Rams 37-3.
I have to agree with both of you guys. I think the Rams are. If they don't, then we got to really reevaluate the Rams and what they're thinking, because they should get after these guys, especially with Stafford doing some of the things. And I don't know if Deshaun Jackson is going to play today, but he might catch a pass. But I doubt it. He'll probably be inactive.
Right. Put him back to the return punts. That's what he was great at. We got New England going to the Chargers. Of course, I picked the Eagles because Pags was on the program, so I'm going to stick with that. New England's getting 5.5 points to the Chargers. Belichick with his defensive philosophy against Herbert. I like the Patriots running game. They got a running game going. Of course, it was against the Jets, but I think you can carry that. And if New England can start running the ball, they're going to have a good team by the end of this year. I'm going to take the points in New England at San Diego, I call them. Still at the Chargers, Jack. What do you think?
Most of New England's offensive line, which has been out, is back and in good form. And they do run the ball well when everyone's out there. And the Chargers are bad against the run. But I don't quite have, as much as I want to, I don't have the guts. I don't have the courage to pick the Patriots to beat the Chargers, especially the Chargers coming off the bad type loss that they had last week. So I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think it's going to be a little more high scoring than people think. 28-24. LA Chargers.
So you're taking New England with the points then, Jack. I hope, because we've done.
New England. Yeah. New England. What is it? 4.5 points.
It was 5.5 at opening. That's
5.5. Yeah. If I had to push comes to shove, yeah, New England might win the game outright. I'm on the fence with that. So yeah, I would take the points.
What do you think, Jim?
If it was in New England, I'd say that, but it's in L.A., and I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think they'll cover, and they'll play better than they played in their last game. So I think the Chargers rebound and play like we thought they would, because the last time they went to Baltimore and didn't play well, but this time they'll play better.
Very good possibility. Washington getting 3.5 at Denver. Both Denver came out 3-0, and now they kind of come back to earth. Washington, it continues for them. I don't know what Washington is. I don't know if they run. I don't know if they throw. I don't know if their defense is good, if they're not good. And Denver too. I mean, Denver has lost some of its edge, but I think Denver at home can beat Washington by more than 3.5 points, Jack.
I'll tell you, when the Broncos drafted Bradley Chubb, they talked pairing him with Von Miller was going to be one of the great 1-2 punches, of modern times, rushing the passer, stuffing the run, but they haven't been healthy together. And after such a promising start, with Teddy Bridgewater in Denver, they were supposed to contend. I mean, they flattened out. I know it's in Denver, but it comes down to who you think has a little more upside going forward. And I'm going to go with the Washington football team with all the turmoil. I like them to win by 7 points, so they should cover the points. I mean, I think Denver's favored by 3, but I think Washington wins the game outright, 24-17.
What do you think, Jim?
Another one, I think Denver, I think Fangio is feeling the heat. And I think that they'll play better today. And I think Denver will cover those 3 points. And I think Denver will win the game. It'll be a close game. Heineke actually has been He's been doing okay, but I don't think he's the answer, obviously. And I think Denver will do the things necessary to win. Their running game is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I just think Washington, that's another team when, you talk about people projecting them to be near the top of the NFC East because of their defense. And and their defense really hasn't played well all year. Tampa Bay -4.5 at New Orleans. New Orleans won. I think they beat Seattle at the end of the game, and it was raining, and neither team played well. I don't think New Orleans is a match for Tampa Bay this year. Tampa Bay giving New Orleans 4.5 points, I think, is a gift. I'll take Tampa Bay any day.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we could overanalyze things. We could think, Jameis Winston has a lot to prove playing against, his old team for the first time, that New Orleans beat Tampa twice in the regular season last year. We tend to overanalyze things. Tampa's, we could look at Tampa's secondary being banged up, but at the end of the day, Tampa's just a better team, and they should prevail something like 27-17. So I would take Tampa, and Tampa's favorite, and I'd give the points. What is it, like 4.5?
Yeah, that's what it opened at.
I think Tampa's going to win the game, but it's going to be closer than you think. It's going to be Tampa by 3. So I'm going to take Tampa, but I'm going to give New Orleans 2 points. I think that New Orleans is getting. I'm not saying that Jameis Winston is great, but the issues with Tampa's secondary is going to affect them in this game.
Yeah, well, it's going to affect him so much that they're going to probably intercept him 3 times after he gets hit. Dallas -2 at Minnesota. Dak plays, he don't play. Minnesota's on the rise. They're playing good football. To me, it's almost a pick 'em. Kirk Cousins is playing better. They got a good running game when it works. Minnesota's defense has improved. I just like the Cowboys' weapons. I think Cowboys beat Minnesota by more than 2.
No, the Sunday night game, I'm going to be channel scanning back and forth to see the Atlanta Braves wrap up the World Series and the Cowboy-Viking game, back and forth to channels. It's going to go. So something tells me it's going to be a high-scoring game. I expect Dak Prescott to play, and he's impressed me more this year than in any other year he's been in the league. And I know he was with that great 13-3 team that got bumped off by my main man Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs some years back. But I just look for an exciting back-and-forth game, and the Cowboys will come out on top, 31-27. I would give the 2.5 points. They're playing in Minnesota, though. So,
yes,
and this is it for Minnesota. The Cowboys can afford a loss. Minnesota can't. There's a difference involved, but it won't matter at the end of the day.
That's true. And Jason knows I hate that darn horn they play with Minnesota, but I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. And I'll tell you, right, Jason, we work out together in the mornings, and he said that Kirk Cousins struggles on night games and Sunday night. So I think the Cowboys are going to win. I think there's going to be an opportunity for the Cowboys, and it depends on if Dak plays or Cooper Rush plays. And if Cooper Rush plays, I'm going to give it to Minnesota. But if Dak plays and he's healthy, I'm going to say the Cowboys.
Well, let me ask you very quickly, if there's time. In boxing, I think to myself, fighters should train at the time they're going to fight. The main event has come on 11 in the evening, but they train early in the day. Does a football team, have you ever had a coach, you're playing a night game, shifted the workouts to later on, where you're practicing at night, so you get used to it? Like I said, Kirk Cousins.
That's exactly right, especially when we went back east. We did that. We practiced later, so you can get your body adjusted to playing at night.
So Monday night, guys, Giants are getting 9.5 opening at Kansas City. Again, if the Giants were ever to beat Kansas City this year or next year, this would be the time they would, with Kansas City having all their problems. Since I picked against the Giants and they won last week, I'm going to pick against them again. I'm going to take Kansas City with the 9.5, give it 9.5 to beat the Giants by more than 9.5. Of course, thinking reverse psychology, that makes no difference at all. But, what the heck. So I'm going to take Kansas City, giving the Giants 9.5 points, Jack.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the one thing people don't point out about the Chiefs, they criticize their defense. They say Patrick Mahomes hasn't been as good this year. They lead the league in turnovers. Maybe that's the reason they haven't been as good this year. And I don't know how good this Chiefs team is. Maybe they put it all together and they're like the team that went to the Super Bowl the last couple of years. I got to feel they're just better than the Giants. I mean, if we're picking the Giants, what are we basing it on? The Chiefs not being as good. But how good really are the Giants? They showed a lot of pride last week to show up, beat Carolina handily the way they did. But I got to like the Chiefs in a pretty high-scoring game. And I like the Chiefs. I would give the 10 points if I had to.
Well, you have to, Jack. What do you think, Tim?
I like the Chiefs in this game, and I think the Giants did play better last week, but it's Carolina as opposed to Kansas City. And I think Mahomes, the pressure's on him because he's taking a step back and forward. He got away with some things, and now they're coming back to haunt him. And I think Matthews is going to play better because now he called out the fans. He better play better because he's in a rough, and they're playing in Kansas City. So there's issues there. They're going to probably boo him and everything. The defense better play better for Kansas City. And I think Mahomes will play better. He will take chances. That's just his nature. But I think he'll be more efficient this week than he has been in the last couple of weeks.
The Kansas City fans.
Wait a minute, Jack. No more questions. We're running late.
You can mute me, Mac.
All right, I'll mute you. Hold on a second. No problem. We got you. There you go. Bye. So he's muted. Anyway, so we have our last thing for the day. We can't do our top three because we're running out of time, but we're not going to miss this.
There's no need to fear. Underdog is here.
When criminals in this world appear and break the laws that they should fear, and all who see or hear, the cry goes up both far and near for underdog, underdog, underdog.
So every week, folks, we give you our underdog picks, who we think against the spread has the best chance of covering. Not that because we may pick against it during regular picks, but if we had to pick an underdog, who we would pick. So you got Miami getting 13.5 at Buffalo. You've got the Jets getting 8.5 against Cincinnati. Houston getting 14.5 against the Rams. And you got the Giants getting 9.5 at Kansas City. It's got to be more than a touchdown, folks, to consider an underdog on our show. So I'll go first. If I had to pick underdog, I think the best underdog I could pick out of the four there would be the Giants getting 9.5. So as my underdog pick, even though I think Kansas City will beat them, I'm going to have to take them as my underdog pick. Hold on, Jack. I'll unmute you. No, you unmuted yourself. No, wait a minute. I unmute you, Jack. Go ahead, Jack. Go ahead. No, all right, Jack.
Okay. Listen, even though I said the Chiefs I thought would win by about 12, if I had to pick an underdog, I'd pick the Giants because the Chiefs are a wild card in this game. I mean, we're picking them partly based on reputation. So I go with the Giants, as an underdog selection. If of the selections I have, they're the best of the group.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jim?
And I'm going to go with Buffalo, Miami. And the reason is there's a lot of history between Buffalo and Miami and obviously playing each other. So I'm going to go with Buffalo to win the game, but Miami to cover cover that 9.5.
So Pickles, who has been the GM for the Titans, is also the predictor of the Giants. As he says the Giants win by 2. Boy, I hope you're right, Pickles. That would be great. Because, again, crossroad game for both of these teams. Giants win, they're still in the hunt. Kansas City loses.
Yeah.
I mean, what then? I mean, can they catch the Raiders? Can they catch the Chargers? Maybe not. So big game for both teams if you want to just see who needs it. They both need it to stay in any kind of contention. And we'll see what happens. We'll see who – Jim, doesn't it sometimes come to who wants it more in the end? I mean, isn't that still part of it?
That's what it does. It's just like anything else. Who wants it more and who is making less crucial mistakes? Because as we all know, and Bill Parcells said this, there are about 5 plays that determine a game, 5 crucial plays. And the ones that can avoid those plays and making mistakes in them are the ones that are going to win the game.
Definitely agree. So, folks, thanks for joining us on our Sunday Big Show. We're doing really good in views. Due to a large part of you guys just tuning in and watching us have fun here. And have a great day today. Enjoy all your games. I hope your team wins. And remember to tune into Jack and Frank Lotirzo on Monday night for their boxing show called Glove Fist, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. And then Wednesday night on YouTube also. These are YouTube exclusive. You got J&B talking shop with Byron Williams and Jim Jeffco. And, man, they do a great job. Have great guests. If you didn't catch it, Herschel Walker was on the last one. You can go back and check it out. So, folks, we'll see you again. Hope your team wins. Have a great Sunday.